What's up, everyone? All right, we are going to, if you don't know, if you've been a listener of the podcast for a while now, then you do know. But those of you who don't know, I've been running a giveaway of sorts. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. It is a giveaway. So I'm giving away a free mixing and mastering lesson to one of the listeners who gave a useful review on Apple Podcast. So we're going to be sitting in a Zoom session, mixing and mastering your track. This is a value of up to $300+. Unfortunately, those of you who didn't get any reviews in until, today, the episode's coming out today, June 26th. But right now I'm going to include a drum roll here. And the winner is A2M_Productions. So A2M_Productions, I really appreciate your review. We'll give it a little shout out here. The headline is genuine and to the point. Any musician can learn a lot from this podcast, and it's straight to the point from people working in the industry. These lessons can apply to any genre of music. There's at least 2 episodes that are right for you. I'll name some topics: marketing, branding, production tips, workflow, organization/networking, licensing, mindset, and the list just goes on. Highly recommend if you're just starting out. This podcast will help you save days of researching. Thank you so much for the kind review. I really appreciate that. Go ahead and shoot me an email, Christian@enviousaudio.com, CHRISTIAN@ENVIOUS.com. Let me know. Or just reach out to me and we will get the whole lesson scheduled. I'll send you my mix prep guide and we'll get going on that. Super excited to work with you. Again, thanks everyone else for leaving reviews. I really appreciate it and I look forward to more episodes in the future and hopefully another giveaway. Thank you again, guys, and have fun listening to this episode with Los Padres. Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your #1 business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. Yo, what is up, everyone? Back with part 2 with Los Padres. Excited for this one. Yeah, this is gonna be a good one. Again, last episode went over very well. Got some good responses. You know, I actually forgot to tell you guys that night, so I was on a crazy like adrenaline high all damn day. I thought our conversation was so good before, during the show, and after, and I knew it was going to be a great episode. And then I hit the 3,000 downloads. It was coming up on the year anniversary, and then I got an email from a listener just like talking about how much they love the show. So I was like, "Fuck, that's
awesome!
The best fucking day ever!" Yeah. So fucking good, and now I'm even more excited. We just had a 20-minute pre-show conversation, which now I'm like, fuck, we should have just recorded that and just let that shit ride, because, man, getting together with you guys is always...
I appreciate that.
It's always a good time, so I'm super excited for this one. We're finally going to get into the topic that we kept saying that we were going to get into. Los Padres have already introduced themselves, Gino and Carlos, and in the last episode they talked about their background and their history in music. So if you don't know about them, please go listen to that episode, especially because, like I said, we dropped just ridiculous amounts of knowledge on there. So go listen to part 1. But today we're getting into the supplemental income side of things, and before we started recording, we were talking about different types of marketing tactics with like social media and where the best route would be to go for you guys. And then I started mentioning, oh yeah, I've got my Google Ads certification. I've got landing page design certification. I'm working on Facebook ad certification right now. And we were discussing about like possibly Gino and I getting together to talk about these things and how I could basically add value to you guys, how I can help you guys out. And this goes right into what we were talking about last episode, building a team, because this is what happened. It gets to this point, and I mentioned something that I think we all agreed on, which was the fact that, Carlos, you were saying it might be the fact that you might not have the knowledge about stuff, but I brought up the point, it might not even be that you don't have the knowledge. It's the fact that you guys are doing so much that you can't spread yourself so thin. Therefore, you haven't done much research on these different marketing ideas. And we were dipping into the ideas of like TikTok. And so you might not have done a shit ton of research on, what it is. You know that the platform is growing. You know that there's an audience there, and you know that you can utilize it. But, how to utilize that, you might not have that information. Whereas I think I have a good idea about it. I spend quite a bit of time on TikTok, unfortunately, and wrap my girlfriend into it. So this goes into building a team and how you can pay for that team, which a lot of the times you might not be, when you start building a team, you don't get to a point where it's like, all right, I'm playing these festivals now and I'm getting like, it's not a necessarily overnight thing where it's all of a sudden you're booked all the way up and you need to hire these people. It's a gradual thing. Once you start seeing a small bit of success, you go, okay, I see where I might be able to utilize someone who's in a better position to do this specific task. But again, you're not at that pinnacle of your career where you're making all your music or all your money from music, but you still need to hire someone on. And what's going to pay for that is more than likely going to be supplemental income from another source or a different career or a part-time job. And this is, a lot of times this is just a day job that a lot of musicians have. Carlos, do you want to get into what your current supplemental income is to help pay for your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So, currently I'm a firefighter.
Badass.
Let's
start with that. Just what a badass.
Yeah, it is, one of those Panama schedule type of careers where, like flight attendant, you could be working for 3 days, but you got 4 days off. And then you go back to work for 2 days and you got 4 days off or whatever. And it was always so attractive to me because I had family members that were in the fire service and I saw them with the allotted amount of time to pursue other things, other business ventures, other hobbies, maybe even a second career. And I knew from pretty young that this was going to be something that was going to enable me an opportunity to do something like double dipping. And there's a bunch of careers out there that you could do that with. Some people work from home in IT. Some people are flight attendants. You have, like me, firefighting. And it's really just provided me an opportunity to be at work, do my job, get my paycheck, take that income, manage that income, and take a portion of that and try to make sure that I'm investing it in the most positive way into my music. And sometimes it takes a little while. You got to make sure that you're good on the home front. But we can't be naive in 2020 and think that, you're going to turnkey a super producer in a week because, that's just not the fundamentals of how this stuff works. Everything is backed by some sort of financial input. Right. Everything.
Definitely. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I heard, so I listened to, I don't know if you guys listen to Joe Rogan Experience at all, but I dip into the show. Yeah, I dip into the show occasionally, like when there's a guest I really like, and I can't remember what guest Joe had on the show, but he talked about a theory he has or an idea he has that he thinks any upcoming comedian or new comedian who wants to make it a career should follow. And I think it can be applied to musicians, young musicians specifically. I'm talking like 18 or 19-year-olds once you start getting into like the late 20s to your closer to your 30s, if you have a girlfriend and they're wanting to settle down, then you have to really kind of like think about, okay, what's going to bring in the bills, or what's going to pay the bills, and how are we going to pay for a family? Because you got it. At some point, you do have to grow up, and if you haven't made it to a specific point where that, you know, your career is already paying for that stuff, you do have to take a good hard look at that. But he brought up the idea that don't have any job that you can't throw away tomorrow and get the same exact job the next week if you want to take your career seriously and like be ready. Because, and I think that I fight with that idea, because in a sense I do agree with it, and I actually wrote about it in one of my articles. But then on the other, like on the flip side of the coin, I'm like, yeah, but like it is a sensitive subject where it's so, I mean, we talked about it last episode. The idea that you're going to be this huge touring artist and making all this money and doing that all by yourself and doing that just within like 5 to 10 years, it doesn't happen all the time anymore. So you do have this issue where if you're working these jobs that you can just throw away tomorrow, and you might not be making all the money you wish you would be making, when you get to that point where you're late in your 20s and you look at your resume and you do want to settle down with someone, you do have this issue where it's like, you don't have the experience in any sort of specific field that's going to make you enough money. So it's like, you really gotta walk a fine line here. But the plus side is a lot of the stuff that I talk about on the show, and like I was discussing with you guys, I don't have any college background.
Neither do
whatsoever. Didn't go to fucking school at all. I was the worst student. I think when I took geometry in like, shit, what grade was that? I think sophomore year I took geometry. Shit, I can't remember. I don't even remember. Maybe not. I don't even remember when I took geometry. I think I failed, and my teacher was so cool that he just bumped me up a grade to let me pass, so I didn't have to do summer school or anything. And then I left midway through my junior year to do online school, and I was in, I think, like algebra 1, maybe algebra 2. I don't even think here's the thing is, I left. I never did math again after that. And then it was about 2 years ago, right before I launched my studio, I thought I wanted to be a computer programmer and get into like writing code. So I was going to go to college online, but I needed to pass calculus in order to do it. And so I was like, okay, let me start doing pre-calc. And I started doing pre-calc, and I was like, wait, I don't know any of this. And I realized, holy shit, like I'd never passed whatever algebra I was taking in junior year. I never passed that. And so I would have to go back to like junior year math.
Yeah.
Take that to learn everything to get to the point where I could just pass pre-calc and then pass calculus. Like it was fucking insane. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm terrible at math. This is not what I'm good at. But because of my experiences and because of where I'm at with my business, I was given the opportunity to like learn about marketing, learn about Google Ads and get my certification, all this stuff, and then I'm actually applying this stuff and it's working and doing well. And therefore I can build up a portfolio and go into this field that I didn't get a degree in, that I just worked at for my own personal business. And you can apply this with as a music producer, and then I connect with other people and help them out with their businesses, and add their stuff to my portfolio to the point where I can go to these jobs where I'm gonna be I have the potential to be making $50,000 to $60,000 a year from on an idea, like on something I didn't go to school for, that I think I spent $30 or $40 on courses that are like legit certifications you get from them. And it's put me in a position where my business is now growing, and then it's going to put me in a position where I can actually get a job doing something that I fucking love. And I'm 24.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can get these shitty jobs where you might not be getting paid the money you want to get paid, but if you save your money properly, like you were saying, invest it in the things that matter and that are going to be positive, and you take the aspects we talk about in this podcast and you apply them to your own production career, and find something that you can start learning, that you could, when you turn 28, you have a portfolio where you could take that to a business and actually make a good living, and you have room for growth in doing something that you like and that you love, and maybe it's benefited your personal music career, but then you've also lent a helping hand to other producers to help them out, to add to your so like, there are things you can do with having these throwaway jobs, so long as you got to be fucking working. You can't be like, I'm going to work this throwaway job and be half-ass at music, and if I do it for 10 years, that's just, fortunately, that's not how it works. You have to apply yourself in these settings. That was a really long rant, but I wanted to get that out before I forgot about the idea.
I loved it, man. I mean, I feel you, man. I never went to college, I never went to college. Everything that I have as far as being a firefighter is a certification type thing. A lot of physical stuff, but you know what? I knew that it was going to provide me time, right? And time is money. So how can I make sure that I'm creating an opportunity for myself? So, dude, I totally can relate.
It's with like Gino. Sorry, I'm gonna ask you the question of what your supplemental income is. I don't want to feel like we're leaving you out or anything. But the other thing too is like, personally, when I have kids, I'm never gonna push them onto being like, you have to go to college, because my parents were like, my sister went to college, she got a degree, and she's not using her degree currently, and she's been out of school for like 3 years now, and now she's paying her debt off. And I saw that and I was like, I'm never going to do that. Like, what I want to do, I can't go to school for. It's not going to benefit me in any way. If you go to audio engineering school, the only thing you're paying like upwards of $100,000 to literally get connections that might not necessarily work out for you. Yeah. Whereas if you just do what we're doing right now, again, networking, we talked about, it could take you even further for free. And like, it's the whole sense that the idea that you need a degree to get anywhere in life is, I think it's wrong, except for obviously if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to do there's obviously specific careers where it's like, yes, you have to get a fucking degree for that, because as a doctor, it's a completely different field. You can't just be like, I've got a certification now. That's not how it works. But when it comes to like marketing, fuck a degree. When businesses are hiring someone to do marketing, they don't give a shit about your degree. They want to see results. What have you done? Do you have an internship where you worked on a project that like increased profits by this amount? Because that's what they want to see. They don't give a shit about like, well, I'm out of school and I just got a degree. I guarantee what you're going to be doing is you're going to be pushing paper for the first 4 years while they slowly bring you on to stuff. Whereas if you would have spent that 4 years learning a craft, building a portfolio, and like actually showing that you know what you're doing, it's going to work out so much better. I mean, obviously,
by the time some of my friends were out of college, I was already like in my 4th or 5th year in my career as a firefighter. So it's, and you know what? They still have to go and bob and weave through the rat race to try to get their job. And, it's a really, really insightful thing. Like, we're coming to this new era of YouTube can pretty much teach you how to be a surgeon if you wanted. I'm exaggerating, but it's probably true. You can fix an engine. It's incredible.
I replaced this. Okay. Growing up, I was neither my dad or I were ever hands-on people with cars. YouTube taught me how to replace my starter. It took a couple of hours, but I replaced my starter in my car, not knowing what the fuck to do. And it's shit like that, where it really is super. Changing my brake pads. I guarantee a majority of people would not know that you need to take the cap off of your brake fluid before you push in the fucking caliper or whatever. Yeah, so you don't bust a brake line. Like, no one would know that they need to do that unless they watched a YouTube video, and unless, I mean, someone taught you. But you can do just about anything now with YouTube, with these different educational centers online, like Udemy, which is where I got my certifications from. Go to Udemy. They almost weekly have, most of their courses are $200 each. Almost weekly, they have 80 to 90% off sales where you can get these courses that are $200 or $300 for $10, $12. And awesome. It's a 30-hour course where you can get a certification and shit. My buddy's doing one right now. It's a 48-hour course that is all about C++ coding for video games. Oh, and they awesome. It's a very, very, very in-depth course, but super useful if he wants to get into that field, and he can figure out how to start building his own games and then work for 3 years, like doing something he loves, building his own portfolio, and then go to a AAA gaming company and show him and get a job. Sure, he might get in the lower ranks as a junior developer, but the point is he's in the fucking door in a career he loves. So it's, and without getting a degree, with just spending $13 on a course on Udemy. I mean, I can go on again. I can go on forever about this stuff as well. But Gino, what do you do for supplemental income?
So for myself, I'm probably not the best example coming off this conversation because I went to college. I went to college right off the bat in high school, and but the intention is the destination is the same answer as you guys. However, the journey was very different. So I went to college, and I went for music education straight off the bat, and I just wanted to just become a cello music teacher for a high school. That was like my first and foremost dream, and I never had anything else change. But then as the course went on, I've had parents that have always drilled me as always having like, hey, Gino, I always have a plan B to sort of just in case, this music thing doesn't work out, no matter how crazy and driven I was, my parents had to keep me in check with really like reality when it came to being a musician, because they're like, dreams aren't going to pay the bills. So with that being said, I took hospitality management as a plan B option in college, and that is what sort of carried on my years of supplemental income ever since when did I start? I want to say at 21 years old is when I started working at the Waldorf Astoria in Orlando, and that's over here near Disney, and that's one of the luxury properties here, and that's like a totally different thing than what I'm doing. Kind of like Carlos, he's a firefighter during the day, and then he's Batman at night. Like I always say, man, he does his thing, but I'm the same way. And that, in a way, it's kind of nice mentally and obviously financially what we're going to be talking, because you get your balance of, social life, and you get out with your, you talk with your coworkers and such like that, and they're also paying your bills and such. So it's kind of nice, that being said, but you have to always, you got to keep things real. You got to know that, hey, if you want to dream big, you got to know, like, you can't just jump off and you're going to land on like some sort of like Sony management deal. That's just not how life works. It's just not how it's going to work. And that's, you got to work, you got to start at the bottom of the barrel, and you got to go at it. And for me, I've had many different detours in life, from music production of being trance to being big room to being things that I never thought. And now meeting Carlos, he's like, great, take all that, what you learned, and just grow on it and just build on it. And that's what I guess what I'm trying to say is, take all that experience that you've learned, keep building on that, because like knowledge is power at the end of the day when it comes to this. And that's what's going to get you pushed really through the rat race with this music production game, is all that knowledge that you build. I mean, sure enough, you can get money to pay for things, but you also had to build knowledge. With that being said, so for me, like I said, I had to build an education for production under the roof with YouTube University, just like you guys did. And I learned through the kinks, through just homies, through friends. And I think I mentioned it through the last episode. Zach, a good friend of ours, taught me the ins and outs of sound design and the foundation. And I built my music production catalog a lot through that. Right after some projects. And so I was still working in the hotels the whole time. And I was still doing that, making my money and putting that into my music. And a lot of people don't know that, and that's not something I'm not going to be outspoken about, and for a lot of reasons. But at the same time, that's just something that I want to make sure, like, before I fully invest myself in music full time, I got to know that I got to be real with myself, and I got to know this is going to become real. And I think
Oh, go ahead, Gino.
No, go ahead. Go on. No, that's
I was
pretty
going
much
to
my
say,
point.
Gino has a really good point. You got to be able to water the crops, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's cool if you have the seed. The seed is the dream. The seed is the desire. The seed is the motivation, ambition. But, you know, let's say you're in a drought. How are you gonna see that crop come to growth? How are you gonna see that vision come to fruition? No one likes to talk about this in music, man. No one likes to do it. And there's a lot of broken relationships that come with this, because when you're making supplemental income, you depend less on people who may take advantage of you. Okay? And I tread lightly with that, because we all have, or we all will experience that one day. It is inevitable. It's human nature for people to try to level up. And when they see an opportunity, especially if you're bartering for something.
Sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
there will always be social climbers that will take any sort of opportunity that they can possibly find to get them up a social ladder to get to the next level. Exactly what you said, leveling up.
And one of the things, like, in relation to what Gino was saying, is we both, prior to developing Los Padres and getting on this production venture, we both were in other things, right? Other music projects, maybe other relationships were built. And sometimes it could be, it could cause a little bit of turmoil. Like, for me, there was a period where I was sleeping in the back of my car, but I still had a career, right? And it was because I made piss poor decisions on my love life, my management of my money. But then 2 years after that, I took what I was making with music, and I was able to, and we could touch on this later, but I was able to take my Ghost Production invoices on PayPal, go to a bank, take my supplemental income checks, and show that I had X amount of money coming in just through Ghost Production to build my first house. 2 years after sleeping in the back of my car. That is the truth. And it came from a failed relationship. And unfortunately, that's what it took to kind of put me over the top and really take focus and take a hold of how this is really going to work.
Yeah, you hit I mean, I want to say rock bottom sounds bad, but everyone's rock bottom is different. Hit, like, I hit my rock bottom when I was like 18 or something, and it was bad. I was in a very bad headspace, and I made very, very bad decisions. Luckily, it wasn't anything legal. It was just personally with my family. I made very bad, stupid decisions, and I hit rock bottom. And when I hit rock bottom, that's when I actually started producing. Once I hit rock bottom, I was like, okay, I found this thing where I can put my positive and negative energy into, but like turn it into something positive, producing music. And that's when I started. I was like, all right, time to fucking buckle up. It's time to grow up and stop being. I grew up very, very, very fast. And I forced myself in that position. When I was like 16, 17, I was hanging out with kids that were like 20 and graduated from high school and shit. And a lot of those friends were from the wrestling team, though. So like I wrestled with them, they graduated, and I continued to hang out with them. So my parents knew them, and they're still my best friends today. But I wasn't hanging out with kids at my high school. I was hanging out with these kids that were way older, and I got an opportunity to see them fuck up. And so then I didn't have to make those fucked up decisions or choices when I was their age. There's a very key thing that you're talking about here that you haven't mentioned, but I think it's a nuanced topic, and it's the fact of like just taking ownership and responsibility for the choices you've made and how you're going to turn that into a positive light. If you want to make the decision of going full time as a music producer, or that's your goal, and you're going to have these throwaway jobs and you're okay with that, you need to accept the consequences that come with that long term. If you don't write down the pros and cons, both short term and long term, and you don't take a moment to really think those things through and where you could put, like, think of the highest point that you could possibly be at in 10 years following that path, but then look at the negative. Like, look at, like, if you're at the worst case scenario, where could you be at? And you have to make a very logical choice of, is that worth it? Can I accept those consequences if things don't go the way I want them to go? Can I accept the worst case scenario? And I think that's something that you need to do, like, yearly. It's not a one and done thing, because you might change your mind, especially as you grow and change. It's funny that we're talking about this kind of stuff. I watched a TED Talk that Kid Cudi did back in 2015, and he went back to his high school in Shaker Heights, and he basically talked about his life story. And when he was 20, he left Cleveland and went to New York, and he was talking about how he was a hustler. He always had a job. He never did not have a job. He was jumping from clothing store to clothing store. But again, like I said, he was in these jobs of these throwaway jobs, these clothing store jobs. And I think he said in 2006, actually, he didn't talk about this in the TED Talk, but I love Kid Cudi. I followed him for a long time, and I think he's a very interesting, like, case study, because he's had such a massive impact on hip hop, and his music in general is so different from all the other rappers out there. But his story especially is very interesting, because in the TED Talk, he talks about how much he wanted this thing. He wanted it so bad. And there was, when he was at a record store looking at CDs, and he saw a gleam of a Jesus chain, and looked over, and it was Kanye West. This was in 2006. So he approached him, introduced himself, and he offered his music, and Kanye said no. And then he's like, all right, well, I'm going to be working with you sometime soon. And this was when he was like 23 or something. 3 years later, I think it might have been 2 years later, he released his first self-titled EP, which had the Day and Night track on it. It got released through some record label. I can't remember who it was. And it ended up in Kanye's lap. Kanye heard it and immediately signed him for an album release, which was Man on the Moon, which is undoubtedly like one of his
the greatest.
It is such a good fucking album, and has, I mean, the Pursuit of Happiness is on there, Day and Night, Solo Dolo's on, like, there's so many, like, Soundtrack to My Life, like, there's iconic songs that literally, the very first
he's still touring on some of those records.
Yes. The very first electronic track I heard was the Crookers remix of Day and Night.
Oh,
so like
awesome.
That transformed my world of music. And but he wanted this path of being a musician so fucking bad, and he got it by working his ass off and investing his money into his career, into his music career, but always hustling, always working, always having a job. And that, I mean, I follow the very same, when I got a job as soon as I fucking could when I turned 15.
Absolutely.
I mean,
the economics, that's another thing that people don't really want to talk about. The sooner you have a source of income, the sooner you need to take 10% of that and put it away. Because guess what? When you release a song, it's out there, but how are you going to promote it? How do you think you're going to promote it? Who's going to design your graphics? Unless you're good at, all that. But those things, those come at a price. I mean, those are services that help you get that. And I don't want to like force segue us into this part, but that's how you can start to see the supplemental income come through with like streams, right? So like you got this job, you're taking X% of your income, you're investing it in your releases. Your releases go from 1,000 to 10,000 to 50, 100, 500,000 streams. And now you're getting this mailbox money, which I love that term, because you literally just walk to your mailbox and you got a check for X amount of dollars. And then if you're somebody who's hustling really hard and you got 10 of those a quarter, you know what I mean? Now you're turning your day-to-day grind into a really, really, really prosperous profit.
There's I forgot who said the quote. I can't remember who said the quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote anyways, but it's like, you know you're successful when you can sleep and you're making money. Like you've made it when your money is working for you when you're not working. Like when it's passively being made in the background. That's when you've made it. And personal finance is the most important topic that should be taught to every single kid by the time they're 18, that they're not taught. And it's very unfortunate. And they get stuck in they get trapped when they're 18 years old, and even when they're 21, and they start getting offered these credit cards, and next thing you know, they're $15,000 in credit card debt at age 20, and they're not going to pay those off, and they might even go bankrupt before 25, and they can't buy a house until they're like 35. So it's very unfortunate that people get wrapped up in these situations. I'm very, very, very lucky to have very minimal credit card debt, and the fact that that's under control and that I now have savings built up. I'm even more fortunate that my girlfriend, who is amazing, and many of you hopefully know her by now. Her name is Marty. She's in the financial world. She works for 2 financial reps for Northwestern Mutual. She is one of the most sought after assistants in that office because she is insanely good at her job. She's incredible, very good with finances. And we talk, it's a constant thing that we're talking about in our day-to-day life, is about our finances in a positive way, not in a negative, like thinking about, okay, we can't buy this because we're saving money. We're trying to pay off our debt, and we're making very conscious and good financial decisions that I don't think a lot of couples have, or just a lot of kids have with themselves. If you're struggling with personal finances, Marty and I did an episode together where we talked about personal finances. We talked about how to build your budget, how to build an emergency fund. And then there was a third topic. I forgot what it was. I think that was like episode 24, maybe 25. I think it was 24. And then I also wrote an article about that. And if you're in my email list, currently you're right now, as of yesterday, you're in a 3-day marketing campaign where I'm emailing you about each one of those subjects.
That's
so
awesome.
If you're on my email list, look out for that. I think this is a topic that people aren't talking about.
It's very underrated. Yeah.
That's so good on you, dude.
I mean, and this is the way Marty and I started out the episode. It was, who do you know that is successful, that has bad personal finance? Unless you win the lottery or just someone passes away that hands you off a bunch of money, you have good personal finance. Like, you've set yourself up for success. And the other thing too is, however you handle your personal finances is exactly the way you're going to handle your business finances. So if you have terrible personal finances and you start making money for your business, that's going to translate right over. And all of a sudden, those checks, the money that's coming in the mail that's working for you passively, you're spending on a bunch of stuff that's probably not what you should be spending your money on. And next thing you know, you don't have money. And you're like, where's all this? Like, I'm getting all these streams. Where's all my money? I don't understand what's going on. I'm still working this day job. I'm living paycheck. Nothing is worse than living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And then on top, like, having, the other thing too is the psychological effect that debt has on a person.
My gosh. Hell yeah. Bro, it's tough.
Both, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know what I'm talking about, because I guarantee a lot of you are my age and you have debt, whether that's college debt, and you're like, this shit's not getting paid off. Just the like depression that is involved with that, and the
anxiety
stress and anxiety. And then I don't know if I'm sure you guys have, but anyone listening, if you've ever paid off a credit card or it is an instant mood changer. It's like oh my God, this is done, like a huge weight's lifted off your chest. You feel happy. You're like, you can just take on the world, so long as you don't just start wrapping up that debt again. But there's something that feels really good. And same with savings. So I didn't have savings sorry, I'm going on these long rants. But I didn't have savings for years. And then I met Marty, and I just started building my savings within the past year and a half. And I had spent a majority of my savings on something. and then I was gonna take the stimulus check that came in and basically put it. I was waiting on my stimulus check. I was like, this is taking too long. I'm impatient. I have the money in savings. I'll just spend it. Put the money back in my savings. I was down to, it was only a $300 to like $500 left in my savings account, and I was like, I was freaking, like having a meltdown. Like, I don't have enough fucking money if something. And before, I didn't have a savings. I was like, shit, like whatever. Like, I didn't think about savings, but now when you have money in savings, it does something to you where it's like you do have this just in case money. And when that starts to deplete, you start going, fuck. Like, oh no, how did I live like this before?
In the last episode we did with you, we briefly spoke about like psychological impact that music is, right? So the other thing is when you have those things built up, a small cushion or a big cushion, and you go to a music professional, let's say an A&R literally invites you to their building in New York or whatever, somebody is going to ask the question, how much do you have to invest in yourself?
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. They're not necessarily asking you because they want that money. They're asking you to see how serious have you taken yourself, to see how willing you are to have capital to invest in your own dream that you're pursuing, right? So like, it's really important. Like, I've had conversations with people when I'm broke and they don't give a fuck about me, bro. Nothing. The music could be great. They don't care. But when I have the money, the conversations seem to yield something. And I'm not saying that they asked for $1, but they take you more serious. And whether it's $100 or $100,000, you are a pure reflection of what you can, how much you love yourself and your ambition by the way you treat your finances as well. And it's just like grooming yourself or taking a shot. Like, you've got to treat your body right, but you've got to treat yourself economically right as well. And other people will see that. You know what I mean?
It's the question is more so like, okay, if you're not willing to invest in your own dream, why should we? That's
exactly. That's exactly the point.
That's all it is. It's okay. How serious are you about this? Okay, are you going to invest in yourself? And you say, no, I don't have anything to invest. They're going to go, well, why would we invest in you then? Makes no sense. Why you're not taking yourself seriously? So why are we going to take you seriously? And it is like it's not so much, I mean, like we said, there are social climbers, and you'll have a sense where if people are asking that question, some people will want that dollar. And those, a lot of the times it is those social climbers, but a lot of the time it is just, they want to see like, are you taking this shit seriously? And when they see that you are investing, they go, okay, this is someone that we can invest in. We can trust that this is probably actually going to go somewhere, because they're on this different path than the average SoundCloud rapper who is asking for a record deal after not having done anything for anyone but themselves and not investing any other money besides a $50 master. So, I mean, it takes time. Time is another thing where it's
right. Go on. There's a quick little story I want to, and this is 100% factual. Okay. I barely had any money in my bank account. I was in a relationship that had just ended. I was living with a friend, and somebody threw a bone out there and was like, yo, I'm going to this networking thing out of state. You're more than welcome to come. Unfortunately, all the rooms for this convention have been booked up, but shit, if there's like a pull-out couch or something, you're more than welcome to come. And I'm like, damn, can I even afford a plane ticket to get to this place? And I immediately turned it off, right? And I was like, all right, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Well, you go through like a bank statement and you realize that you spend that much money on the weekends in a bar, right? That I could have bought that plane ticket. So I go, okay, instead of going out this weekend and trying to drink my anxiety away, I'm going to get this plane ticket. Fly to
or
this
have
place.
FOMO, go out,
exactly, or have
like
FOMO,
going out because
right?
you have FOMO, you want to be with
Right?
your friends who are having a quote unquote good time.
Exactly. So for what I spend on drinking. In 3 days, I was able to get a plane ticket, super cheap. I wasn't picky about when I flew, and I just got there. And I barely had any money still, so my money's dwindling. And I get to this place, and I meet my friend, and my friend is super excited that I'm there. And he starts to introduce me to these other people that are at this convention. And I go, yeah, but, you know, where am I going to sleep? And he's like, man, they don't have any pull-out beds in our room. I slept on the floor for 2 days, bro. 2 days on literally, I'm not joking, a resort floor, okay? Barely, and these other people are sleeping comfortably in their bed, okay? And day 1 happens, I'm like, damn, like, I shouldn't be here, I should be back home, blah, blah. Day 2 comes around, and I start to bump shoulders with people who make things happen, okay? And I'm like freshening my face up, and I'm like, hey, good to see you again. I saw you yesterday. My name is blah, blah, blah. Cool. Day 3 comes around, and now I'm talking to people about remix opportunities and opportunities that would have never came to fruition had I decided to, you know, dwindle in my agony and whatever it was I was going through personally, right? 5 years later, I'm still working with these people, and my relationship with them is stronger than ever. And I wouldn't trade anything for the world. Like, I literally had no money, and I felt pretty broken as a producer, but that one opportunity changed everything. And I literally hope your listeners just take this one piece of advice. The supplemental income is the greatest foundation that you can create for yourself, because it can create opportunities even if it feels like you don't have $1 million in the bank. You know, $10 to your name is $10 more than some people will ever see, you know?
Yep. It's very valid and very true. I mean, this is how I was when I was talking to Dennis when he was on the show from No Face. He was talking about the shout out to Dennis and No Face, because they're fucking badass over there. Those Max and Dennis are, I mean, talk about a grind, dude.
Yeah.
You want to talk about work ethic? Go fucking look at Dennis and Max, because they're insane.
Yeah.
They make me feel like I'm a lazy piece of shit. He was talking about, when he was plugging stuff about the No Face boat party in Florida, and I was like, I got off the call with him, and it was like our call. I was on such a high where I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is the first time I've had a major person in the scene on my show when I had Dennis on, and I was like, this is fucking great. I'm so excited for this. And then I was like, I need to fucking go to that boat party, because I wasn't even seeing it as like a chance to go on a vacation. I saw it as a business opportunity. I saw it as, there's going to be No Face artists there. Dennis and Max are going to be there. I can actually meet them in person and shake their hand and talk to them. And there's gonna be other fucking people there that I can talk to and get to know, and like you were saying, rub shoulders with, and that's gonna open up the floor for conversation. It might not necessarily mean anything business wise in the moment, because it's a very short time frame, but that means I can add these people on Facebook, and like the relationship that I built with Noah, it can be built the exact same way through liking their content, engaging with it, and then finding things that I have in common with this person and building a good relationship with them, and then finding out how I can add value to them. So it's like and I was thinking, I was like, fuck, you know, how much is that going to cost? And then the thing is when you have those types of opportunities, sure, you might have to invest a few $100s, but the amount of money that you'll make back from that one investment is, it's just like education. It's unbelievable how much, I mean, the amount of money you can make back from that, depending on what you do, is nearly infinite.
Right. You got to be able to take a gamble on yourself, and you got to be willing to take risks. This is another thing that I just recently learned. I know we keep going like all over the place, but you know, the world is going through a crisis. We're going through so much as humanity. But one thing about investing in yourself is taking a look at what opportunities present themselves in order for you to try to yield something in return. So I say I tread lightly here because it's a topic that not a lot of people want to talk about or have spoken to about, but it's money, right? So, and it's money related, and it's something that I'm exploring right now. So, stock market, okay? You look at a really hard hit on the economy, and you look at stocks like Spirit Airlines, and they trade at like $50 a share. But back in March, they were as low as $7, right? So if anyone had told me how to look at the stock exchange to grow money, the seed, right? Maybe in March or April when they stopped flying, I would have bought 100 shares, $700. But I would have made 5 times that when they get back to their 52-week high. Dude, I had no idea about this. And people around me are doing it. Musicians are doing it. They're literally investing in a market not only to help the economy, but they're investing in a market because it's at a point where $100 could turn into 500 overnight. 500 can turn into 5,000. I'm not joking. Overnight. It depends on when you get in and stuff like that. But no one ever spoke to me about that. No one taught me those things. And here I am trying to play catch up, but those things happen a few times in your lifetime, and those are opportunities that you could really take in yourself. Obviously, I hate to see society where it's at, but economically, if I had known this a year ago, I would have taken every penny I could find and invested to try to flip it. So then that money I take out goes right back into my music.
Now, obviously, disclaimer to anyone, if you want to invest money into the stock market, talk to a fucking financial advisor first.
I am not an accountant.
Yeah, we're not financial experts. And I mean, the first rule is always have an emergency savings built up before you do that kind of stuff. And also, only invest what you're okay with losing. Because if you're not okay with losing $1,000, don't invest $1,000. That could be a very bad time for you.
I'm totally cool if we cut this clip too.
No, we'll leave it for sure. Well, the other thing is, the only reason, and this is my personal belief, my personal philosophy. I do believe the only reason why anyone is in any sort of financial situation is most of the time your own damn fault. And this goes, and it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but this goes into being accountable and being like responsible and owning up to your actions that might have gotten you in a situation and not blaming an outside source. Because let's be honest, like, you have the power of will. I mean, you can do what you want. If you want to fucking build up a shit ton of debt and credit, you can do that. And if you're in that situation, like, no one pulled out unless someone literally stole your identity, no one pulled out your credit card and spent $200 at the bar last weekend. Like, you did that. You made the conscious decision to do that. So don't blame someone else for your financial grievings. However, I will say, like, I think the credit card companies are fucked up because they consciously go after 18-year-old kids who don't know shit about money to get them wrapped up in debt. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's morally right. That's a different conversation, but you're the reason why you're in your financial situation. More than likely. I mean, it's a very nuanced conversation. It's not binary. It's not good or bad. There's complications with things, whether that has to be with health or family or whatever. Gino, what experience do you have with investing in yourself and your own career? What has that looked like over the years?
So for myself, this kind of dates back to, I guess, for previous projects. I've always since I've had my 9-to-5 job, put aside of the income that I've had to always put into music, and that's always been the percentages have always changed throughout the years, but I've always made sure that the money that's always going to the side kind of splits into things accordingly, and that goes into either promotion to the songs that I would be releasing all the way up until like even the photo shoots that we would have going into the singles that we would be promoting into, and that goes into something we would forecast 6 months out. And so I would have to, think, a little bit more long term than I would like. And this was something sort of new to me. So, whip out the Excel spreadsheets and all that other stuff that you would, typically do for this kind of thing. And that's what sort of kind of set up really intact for a lot more serious things with Los Padres, and even a previous project I had with Fino. These are things that, I really had to really want to get organized, because I wanted to make sure that the money that I was investing was going into the right place, into the right things, and even into the right people, and this goes into, the people, the friends in the context that you make, whether they make you a teaser video, or whether they edit something for you. And this was something, kind of not to get too into it, but when I was really, learning the production game, I really had a high expectation for my songs and stuff like that. So I didn't master my own songs for quite a bit. I would just mix to like a certain point, and then I would just outsource it to a good friend of mine to master. But then it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Let me take matter into my own hands. I learned really like my own thing about mastering, and then I kind of dove into that. And even in fast forward, years later, quarantine mode, where we're at 2020. This is, like you said, we said the last episode, for some producers, this was for a blessing in disguise. Granted, nothing ever happened to their friends and whatnot. I took this opportunity to learn things that I would never have wanted to ever learn, in with the busy schedule that we had. And this includes softwares and things that you would never have to believe, Adobe softwares, and all the way down to all these other things. And this, you save so much money doing these things. And so with all that being said, the money that I was investing kind of got smaller and smaller and smaller throughout the years, because I wasn't kind of throwing it all over the place and putting it in the wrong places. And so, is it time? And that all kind of comes down to time management. You have to have time management skills, because if not, you are totally just screwed. And so that's something. No, go ahead.
It goes into like systems. Do you have I personally have a systems day where I literally go in and I look at every single system I have, whether that has to do with like looking at my accounts payable. So all of my finances, like all the subscriptions I'm paying for, I log all those on a budget spreadsheet for my business. Same with all the money I'm making. I do all that stuff in one day, and I look at how can I automate these things? What skill can I learn to spend less time on this and make me more money? And it's the same thing with like you said with mastering. Do you have, as a producer, and I'm talking to the audience, as producers, do you have a day where you're spending time learning a specific craft that will make you spend less money, whether that has to do with like mixing or mastering, that will allow you to spend less money on that topic and be able to improve your personal skills so that you could do it yourself? So you can spend less time either waiting or whatever it is and just get it done. And when you learn a new skill like that will actually make you money, you can't put a price tag on that kind of shit.
Are you spending time getting good at something to make your workflow faster? Because faster workflow makes more achievable things.
It's even the exact, you can flip it too. What's more valuable to you, your dollars or your time? A large majority of people will say time, and it may be that you suck at mixing or you suck at mastering and you hate it. You just outright hate it. You don't want to spend your time doing it. So it's better for you to invest your dollars to get that thing done by someone else, so that you can invest your time rather than your money. And it's something maybe, and that time you would spend, you're investing that in a different skill that's going to make you money in a different sense. Like we're talking about with like my Google Ads certification. Maybe you want to get into that and you want to run ads for your music production on Facebook or something. And so you decide to outsource everything, outsource your mastering. So you save an hour to two per track, however many days, and whatever, and instead you're spending that time learning how to get a Google Ad certification or a Facebook Ad certification so that you can get more streams, so that you can put that in a portfolio and show that to a record label or something, so you can work for it's endless the shit that we could talk about how your supplemental income with both, now we're getting into like time, but both your time is money and money is time, both your money and your time, like the way you spend these things, these resources, can drastically change the path that you take and how short or how long that path is for you to see success in your career. And since we're getting into, that sense of thing of success, let's talk about probably one of the most important topics, probably the one thing that all of the producers listening to this show are looking forward to, and that is going full time. Going full time is a topic that will always be talked about, that I think everyone is striving for in the music business. Everyone wants to go full time with music. If you don't do it the right way, it can be very stressful and it can be very fucking chaotic. And I mean, if you're not taking your shit seriously and you're not running it like a business, it's going to be a bad time for you. When do you quit a job? I think it's very touchy. It's very complicated.
So I would say when you find yourself, like you said, when you find yourself making money while you sleep, when you're not actually moving and when you're not wasting your energy on certain things, that's a really cool indicator. I really like that analogy. I think it's true. I think if you can find a way to do that, that could be like one sign of, hey, let me step more into...
Take the leap of faith.
Exactly. But, in all reality, a lot of the music industry... majority of the music industry is not going to give you health benefits. You're not. There
are organizations you can go to.
Yes,
there are specific organizations you can go to. But anyways, go on. I do agree with that. Yes.
But in my personal opinion, I think I'll always be in my career because I've kind of planted myself in a situation where firefighting is like my second job. I still do music more than I do firefighting.
Well, it's probably something you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Why not do it if you don't enjoy it,
And I mean, in between calls and stuff, you can ask Gino. I've literally sent him Snapchats of on the way to emergencies and stuff like that. And I've had my laptop in the fire truck where I'm literally making music.
Able to know it.
I'm not joking.
Yep.
I'm not joking. There's never a minute. So from my perspective, I don't think there is a point where you say, hey, I think now I'm just going to quit my job. I think maybe an opportunity could present itself and then you could say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. But, I was able to find a source of passive income through remixes for official remixes. And that's given me the humility to take that money, reinvest it in this project, and continue to do this until it gets to a different platform. And once that platform goes, then I guess I can reassess everything. But my personal advice would be, definitely look at yourself 10 years from where you're at. Are you going to want to buy your house? Are you going to want to build a house? Do you want a nice car? Are you going to have kids? All of those things.
This is something I ask every single new client that I have. I ask, there's two questions I ask. What are your goals 1 to 5 years from now, both personally and professionally? And then I ask, what are your goals 5 to 10 years? So I asked those two questions, and specifically I asked personally and professionally, because it might be that I'm talking to a younger producer who says, I'd like to have a family when I'm 30, 32, and I'd like to have this, and that. And then I have to have the conversation of, okay, well, what's your career? What's your job right now? What's paying the bills? And they tell me what's paying the bills. And then my follow-up question is, could you see yourself in that career forever? And that I ask these very simple questions and they really start thinking about shit that they haven't thought about before. And if they can't answer that, yes, they can be in that career forever, then it's like, okay, well, we need to start thinking about, okay, yes, this music career is obviously, that's what you want. At the end of the day, that's great. But then we have to talk about, if you want to go full-time with music, what are alternative paths within music where you can make money still doing this shit you love? Whether that's working for a record label, working for a talent agency, like there's so many different paths you could take where you're still working in music, but there's a legit career in there. And, sometimes you have to have that tough conversation. It's funny that like, I think none of these producers come to me thinking that I'm going to be asking these questions, and they're like, Jesus Christ, this is like, I thought I was just going to get mixed from this guy, but I'm like, no, we're fucking like, we're looking at your life, and I want to do whatever I can to make sure you're successful. And
I definitely don't want to scare any of your listeners with these topics. I mean, I'm going to be upfront. I'm 32. I have a house, just had a baby. She's not even 2 yet, and I'm married.
Fucking adorable. Oh my God. She's so adorable.
You know what I'm saying? So like it did take on your timeline. You're very, very accurate with what you're talking about. You know exactly how to really get the information out there. It wasn't until I was about 30 that I really started saying, okay, this is when my life's going to start to change. This is kind of the things. But it
settle
also,
down, have a family.
Right.
And your values change.
Yeah.
As soon as you have a kid or even get married, it's no longer about you. It's not at all. It's not even close about you. It's about, especially when you have a kid, it's about the fucking kid. And at that point, you might get to a point where you're like, I don't want to be touring. I don't want to be on the road 200 days out of the year. I want to be growing up with my fucking new baby. Like, I want to see my kid walk. I want to see my kid talk. I want to be there for their graduation. Like, you want to be there for these major life events, and your values instantly change. And you might go, yeah, I can always produce, but I can't always, like, my kid only walks for the first time once. My kid only says their first word once, like.
Yeah, it's so true. It is so true. So, and it makes you work harder, like. My wife.
What do you have to put food on the table?
Exactly. My wife gets to stay home because she and I have this really good relationship with me and my music. Like you've seen, I have a home studio, so I lock into the home studio. I get these projects done, and you know what? She gets the benefit of staying home. One of us gets to be with our child 24/7. So, I definitely want to encourage your audience, like, dude, you definitely can make it. You definitely can find the resources to make this income. And it's fantastic, once all those things line up.
One of my ultimate goals that I've realized more and more over the past year or two, like, one of my dream goals is to be able to run my own business full time and make all of my money working from home, so that when I have kids, I can homeschool my kids.
Hell,
and I can always be with my kids.
That is awesome.
That is what I want. And I can't do that if I'm slacking off, if I don't have good personal finances that translate into my business. Like, I can't do these things. I cannot set up the best possible future for my child, which is a very hypothetical and theoretical child right now. 'Cause I don't, my girlfriend's not pregnant. We're not planning on having kids for some years now. But that's what I want. I want that future for my kid. And this is where I see I can have my cake and eat it too. I can do the shit I love with music, make a good living off of it if I make the right choices, and I can also be with my fucking kid. Like, I could be with my kids always. And I'm not because I want a helicopter parent, but because I want to, they're my fucking kid. I want them to learn specific things. I want them, like, I think the public school system completely failed me. Yeah. And I don't trust that. And I think a lot of kids feel that way too. They think the public school system has failed them. And I have different viewpoints that I don't agree with the public school system in the US. So it's like, I have these goals and visions for my family and what my family will look like. And I think my girlfriend does as well. And I think we agree for the most part. She's like, fuck that homeschooling stuff. I was like, I don't care if I have to do it all. That's what I want. And she's cool with that, as long as, she doesn't have to be stuck doing all that kind of stuff. And I don't think she doesn't want to work at home all day. She likes being in the office and stuff. But going off that, I mean, it really is about, like, when you get to a point looking 10 years in the future and realizing that your values might change too. So you might not want to go full time. But if I'm going to, me personally, and I think we discussed this in the personal finance episode. If that's what you want to quit your job and just be music full time, definitely don't fucking do it without saving $10,000 in the bank minimum. You have
like 6 months of emergency rent.
6 months of all of your bills paid. That's including groceries. That's including going out and having fun. That's including restaurants. That's including entertainment. Paying your rent, your water bill, your electric bill, everything, your car payment, gas, all that shit needs to be saved up for 6 months. And then you're in a good position to take that leap of faith. The other thing too, though, is like, don't have debt. I mean, you don't want to not have a job and then be trying to pay off debt. Like, that can be very stressful. Now, obviously, if you have a student loan, it's a little bit different because that shit usually doesn't get paid off for 20 years. Like a fucking mortgage. But
sometimes you just need a humble pie, really, to be honest with you, when it comes down to it. A lot of people think that what they see, and it's unfortunate, it's the younger generation, what they see on the internet is exactly what's really happening. But there's so much that happens behind the scenes, and that goes down to investments, to the person even taking that photo that just posted that content, and that's what they don't know, and that's the money that you have to put behind that quality. So it goes beyond, so many levels of really investments, but on that. But like you said, take a certain amount of time, even a couple years to even if you have to get a second job for a year or two and really shut down, but you put that money to the side, you will thank yourself years later down the road. You really will. So
yeah, it lifts a giant, like, just weight off your shoulder. And that you make a really good point there, Gino, that I think is the issue with today in society, and a lot of the way, like, with media and stuff, is just the fact of everyone is taught to think so binary, as if there's not nuance in everything. And there is so much nuance in the world, but so many people just think binary. They think good or bad. They think, and it causes this issue where kids think that if they just do this one thing, if they show off on social media or whatever, they'll have a lot of friends and people that like them. But no, they don't. Like, it's not that binary. There's so much more to it. There's so much more to just looking successful and actually fucking being successful. Because let's talk the fucking truth here. Let's chew gum and walk at the same fucking time, because there's so many things that are running in the background, and if you don't catch that and you don't realize that, you gotta look at the real world then.
Yeah, we all get trapped in that social media outlet. We all live for a moment or two vicariously through the people we look up to. We're like, oh my gosh, how amazing.
The dopamine from the likes you get.
Yeah. How dope would it be to be on stage and have fireworks go off? I mean, I went through that at one time, and I was like, okay,
this is awesome.
You
get a high from it. You get a fucking like an addictive high from it, because you're like,
absolutely. But I was jealous for so long until I achieved that, and dude, that takes a toll on your health, your mental health. And what we're doing is we're living vicariously through each other through jealousy, animosity. You see people posting with, like, I don't know, Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and we have made that such a image of success, but little do we know that person's working 3 jobs and they just paid for a 12-hour rental. They don't even own it, and then they used their 3 jobs to pay for that photo, hoping to get a sponsorship from something that never comes, and now they can't pay their cell phone bill because their cell phone's off. So living vicariously through the social media could be a trap, but if we are quote unquote woke to this, and if you can see through the potential damage that it can do to yourself, you're fine. You just got to have that mental strength, mental stability, and one of those things is having a savings. I mean, we're talking about money, so let's just talk about it. Think about how like the true colors came through when festival season was completely halted and everybody was doing these live shows and trying to keep their fan base going and stuff like that, which is a great concept. But how many of those DJs were not able to pay bills because they weren't at their next shows, or how many people were struggling because how many musicians just invested in something and then their job told them, hey, we don't need you for the next 4 or 5 months. I mean, it is tough. And no matter how big their house was on Instagram or is in real life, or how expensive their car is in real life, I saw so many people like, what am I going to do? The clubs are closed, festivals aren't doing anything, and it just goes to show you that we're all human, and that if we all are not investing in ourselves in the right way and the right manner, things like this could really ruin everything you've been building.
Yes.
Times like this.
The lockdown is the reason why Marty and I did the personal finance episode, because I saw all of these people that were bitching about finances and freaking, and I shouldn't say bitching, because I mean they were bitching for the right reasons. I think they were freaking out and in a panic, and they're in debt, and they went to school and they have a degree they're not using, and they're paying for that, plus they have to pay for their car, like, and all this stuff, and they lost their job. And I understand where they're coming from, and this is why we did the episode, because we both saw this going on. I had a friend who was like about to lose his job, and him and his girlfriend thought it was a good idea to pull credit out for a couch, and I'm like, what the fuck? So and it's the same guy who I've heard bitch about money, and I'm just like, I can't say much. I mean, I try to say something, but it always comes off as preachy. But it's some people, it's hard for them to swallow that pill and realize that, you know, the finance stuff is probably the most important thing, because it's what is going to be the main stress factor. And especially if you're in a relationship and neither of you have good finances and you get married, you're probably going to get divorced because of money. Like, and that's a major reason for divorces, because none of you have fucking good finances, and you get
Right.
wrapped up in mortgages and car payments and credit card debt, and then you have kids, and it's just, it builds up and builds up and builds up, and you have animosity towards each other, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Bad. I think that might be it, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to nail on there? Gino, anything from you? Carlos?
I'm good, man. I think this was great.
Oh man, this is a pretty good episode here. Like I said, I think everybody, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I hope nobody here feels discouraged or anything like listening to Carlos and I, but, you know, still dream big. That's something I've always been since I've been a kid, and I'm still always going to emphasize all that and still push forward. I still think everybody should always dream big, but just be real with yourself at times. And if you do that and have that in your formula, you will always be successful. I promise you.
Dream big, work hard, but be realistic.
It'll show. It'll always show.
Working hard is like the key thing there. No one went from nothing to the big leagues without working fucking hard. I can tell you right now, Armin van Buren did not get to where he was by playing video games all day and slacking off.
Not just saying, yeah. And a lot of people always say things, you know, it's a matter of just doing these things, you know. A lot of people say they're going to do these things and say it, but you got to execute. It's always a matter of execution.
Yep.
So.
Always, if you're going to say you're going to do it, stay true to your word and do it. That's one thing that I've been very prominent about myself personally. If I say I'm going to do something for someone, I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I would have said no. Thank you guys so much again. Wait, real quick. Do you guys have any new plugs over the next 2 weeks? This episode's coming out in about a week, but on the 26th.
So
Yeah.
So we just turned in the official remix for AJR's Bang. That'll be on nationally syndicated mix show radio like iHeartRadio, the Twitter Mix. It'll be all over the nation starting, what's today? Oh, starting tomorrow.
Dude, yeah. Congrats, you guys. Tomorrow. Awesome.
And we're looking forward to some awesome remix opportunities that we have coming. So you'll actually hear most of our material before it ever hits Spotify or anything like that on these mix show radio, these mix shows. And shout out to J-Mac, shout out to everybody at Atlantic, shout out to Randy Reyes, John Sirachi, like all those people who have really been really good to us and giving us these opportunities. So we hope that you guys will, tune in, and, we've got this label that we've been cooking up behind closed doors with Max and Dennis. We're going to be doing a live conference with Dennis on No Face on the 27th of this month. So
that'll be the day. It'll be anyone listening to this probably on the 26th. That'll be tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, all of the stuff that we're talking about and the plugs that they're putting out, they'll all be on the show notes, enviousaudio.com/episode 30. All the links will be there to check out this stuff. But anyways, go on.
And, working with you, we're hoping that we can start talking about getting some demos from your audience for this label. Maybe some people out there, maybe.
I already know of some. I have some ideas for some people I'm going to send your way.
Awesome. Sure. Awesome. Fantastic. And, we love your show. We appreciate your time. And, Gino, floor's yours, bro.
No, man, just wanted to say thank you for having us and really kind of letting us speak our thoughts and personal thoughts as well, and kind of digging deep into some things that, we know that a lot of producers sometimes don't like to talk about, or sometimes don't even know to talk about. And we just like to feed, the all this information and experience that Carlos and I have gotten from, completely different backgrounds, but we just want to share that knowledge with everybody else. And like I said, not discourage them, but more just motivate everybody else to know that like anything really, is possible, and dream big.
Yeah. Don't at all get discouraged by this. Just understand, like, because you're right, Gino, like some people will look at this and might get discouraged, but honestly, you should feel the opposite, because you now have unlocked new knowledge that is going to make you 10, 20, infinitely times more successful than you were yesterday when you didn't have this knowledge. So just think of it that way. Take it a step at a time, like I always talk about, and just, apply yourself to stuff. But you guys, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure again.
Thanks for having us.
I love having you guys on. We're gonna plan for another episode sometime in the future where we'll get together again, because you guys are just, it's a powerhouse of knowledge.
I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, all right, of course. All right, take care, guys.
Take care. Be safe.
Thanks for tuning into this episode, guys. As always, head to facebook.com. Join the Electronic Dance Money Facebook community. Also, go to enviousaudio.com/episode 30 to check out all the show notes, everything that we talked about that might have a link or a specific product or whatever it is, that will all be posted there on the episode show notes. Again, thanks so much to A2M_productions. Make sure you reach out to me so we can get something scheduled. If you want to leave a review, go to podcast.apple.com and just look up Electronic Dance Money. You can also find those links if you go to enviousaudio.com/podcast. Just scroll all the way down. You'll find a link to Apple Podcast where you can leave a review. Super excited for the next episode coming up, you guys. It's going to be more systems based, so we're going to be doing a really deep dive into what it looks like to create a full system for your production studio and treat it like a business, run it like a business. And we're going to be diving into the franchise prototype, which is, I've been on a rant about this, but anyways, whatever. You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.